Myself, G. Mahesh Kumar, Assistant Professor of Chemistry. Today, in the environmental sustainability, we are going to discuss about the floods and droughts. Okay, floods and droughts is a topic today we are going to discuss in this lecture. Coming to the contents of this is floods and drought. Floods and drought. What actually the definition of a flood? Flood is nothing but it is an overflow of water. Overflow of water whenever what happens, magnitude of water flow exceeds the carrying capacity of the channel within the bank, it leads to the flood. Okay, what is a flood? Means excess of water leads to the floods. In another way, we are going to tell this as an overflow of water whenever the magnitude of water flow exceeds the carrying capacity of the channel within its bank is called as flood. What are the causes of floods? Causes of floods: heavy rainfall, sudden melting of ice, insufficient water channel capacity of rivers. The major causes of floods is heavy rainfall, sudden melting of ice, insufficient water channel capacity of rivers. Construction of dams, construction of water dams, buildings, roads, which prevents infiltration of water into the soil. It is also one of the causes of flood. What is a flood? Flood is a excess overflow of water whenever the magnitude of water exceeds the carrying capacity of the channel within its banks is called as a flood. The major causes of flood is heavy rainfall. Heavy rainfall leads to the flood, and sudden melting of ice. Sudden melting of ice, insufficient water channel capacity of the rivers. Water channel capacity of the rivers. Channel capacity of rivers. All these are leads to the floods. And construction of buildings, roads, which prevents the infiltration of water into the soil, it also leads to the floods. Some more causes of floods. One is deforestation, means removing of forest, destruction, plants from the forest, trees from the forest also leads to the floods. Overgrazing, excess of agriculture, excess of doing the agriculture, farming also leads to the floods. Mining increases, surface runoff from the rains hence increases the flood level. Okay, soil erosion is also one of the problem of floods. Loss of vegetation would lead to the flooding due to the heavy rain. Okay, all these are the some of the causes of floods. One is deforestation, overgrazing, mining increases the runoff from the rains, and also increases the flood level. Soil erosion, loss of vegetation, which lead to the flooding due to the heavy rain. Effects of floods. Okay, what are the effects of floods? What are the causes? Effects of floods. Okay, floods effects. Coming to the effects of the floods, flood water brings various diseases. Floods kills human lives. Effects of the floods are, okay, it leads to the, okay, it causes many disease causing organisms to the human beings. It also sometimes floods leads to the death of human being. Aquatic and wildlife habitats are destroyed by the floods. Okay, aquatic and wildlife habitats are destroyed by the floods. This leads to the loss of biodiversity. Loss of biodiversity due to the migration of wildlife species to adjoining areas. This leads to the loss of biodiversity due to the migration of wildlife species to the adjoining areas. Okay, here flood water brings various diseases which leads to the kill of human being. Aquatic and wildlife habitats are destroyed by the floods. leads to the loss of biodiversity due to the migration of wildlife species to the adjoining areas. Flood causes economic loss, loss of crops, loss of livestock and property damage. All these are the some of the effects of floods. Effects of floods. Okay, here floods. One of the major effects of floods is here killing of human beings, aquatic wildlife, aquatic and wildlife habitats, loss of biodiversity, flood economic causes, economic loss, loss of crops, loss of livestock, and also leads to the property damage. All these are the effects of floods. Okay, for example, see this is how the floods okay, effects of floods due to the major water. Okay, how we are going to control this flood control management. Flood control management. Okay, construction of dams and reservoirs in an effective method we can control the floods. Okay, one is how we are going to uh, control means here we are going to control by flood control management by construction of dams and reservoirs we need to construct so that we can avoid the floods. Hydro engineering operations in flood affected areas for proper diversion of flood water. Hydro hydro engineering operations. Dams and reservoirs are constructed in effective way so that we can avoid the floods. Hydro engineering operations in the flood affected areas for proper diversion of flood and construction of floodways and reservoir green zone on river banks. These are the three methods how we are going to control the floods. Okay, causes, effects, and control methods of floods. Construction of dams and reservoirs, hydro engineering operations in flood affected areas for the proper diversion of flood water, construction of floodways and reservoir green zones on river banks. All these are the flood control management. Coming to the drought. What is a drought? Till now we have discussed about the floods. Now coming to the drought. What is a drought? Floods are nothing but excess of water leads to the floods. But coming to the drought, scarcity of water leads to the drought. Scarcity of water leads to the drought. Okay, drought occurs due to the inadequate rainfall. Inadequate rainfall or late arrival of rains or overutilization of groundwater. The main three causes of drought is one is inadequate rainfall. Okay, means less rainfall leads to the drought. Inadequate rainfall. Next one is late arrival of rainfall. Late arrival of rains and overutilization of groundwater. Overutilization of groundwater. All this leads to the drought. Condition of dryness of prolonged period is called also leads to the drought due to the drop of average rainfall. It is also one of the cause of drought is condition of dryness for a prolonged period. For a long period, if the land gets dried without water, it also leads to the drought. Okay, drought causes famine and starvation of women. Okay, leads to the difficulty in starvation of human life and animal population of region concerned. Drought is the most serious physical hazard to the agriculture. Because of drought, the major affected are the farmers. Means because of this, agriculture has been affected. The major drawback, physical hazard to the this drought is most serious physical hazard to the agriculture for the farmers. Shortage of water for even and even the basic needs is a major problem in the drought areas. Shortage of water for even the basic needs. Okay, for the basic need also, if there is a no water available, it is also a problem to the water drought areas. Okay, shallow rooted plants does not grow. Okay, whatever the plants that will not grow because of this drought. Infiltration of wells, construction of dams, watersheds are being taken up into the drought prone areas. Cloud seeding techniques, artificial rains, etc. are implemented. Okay, in order to avoid this cloud seeding techniques, artificial rains are being implemented for the in order to avoid the drought. Infiltration of wells, construction of dams, watersheds are being taken up in drought prone areas. Cloud seeding techniques, artificial rains are being implemented to avoid the drought. What are the damages of drought? What are the damages of drought? Drought damages are again two types. One is direct damages, direct and indirect. Direct damages and indirect damages. What are the direct damages? Direct damages leads to the loss of income, social dislocation, and famine, and which leads to the death. Famine and which leads to the death. Loss of income and famine and death of human being. Indirect problems of the floods. Indirect problems are loss of rural and urban revenues. Okay, loss of rural and urban revenues. It also leads to the fire hazards, loss of water access. Okay, all these are the uh, direct and indirect damages due to the drought. Direct damages are loss of income, social dislocation, and famine, which leads to the death. Indirect damages of the drought is loss of rural and urban resource revenues, fire hazards, loss of water accesses, loss of water accesses. All these are the some of the direct and indirect damages of drought. Direct and indirect damages of drought. Shallow rooted plants do not grow. Infiltration of wells, construction of dams, watersheds are being taken up in drought prone areas, and we are going to implement the artificial rains or cloud seeding techniques are to be implemented in the to the where the drought areas are has been identified. Coming to the references of this environmental sustainability here, Robertson Margaret Sustainability Principles and Practices, Routledge and Taylor Francis Group 2017. Okay, Sustainability Principles and Practices, Routledge, Taylor and Francis Group 2017. Teaching responsibility for teaching sustainability in context, General of Sustainability Education. These are the two references. One is Sustainability Principles and Practices, Routledge, Taylor and Francis Group 2017. Second one is Responsibility for Teaching Sustainability in Context, that is General of Sustainability Education. These are the two references we are using for the environmental sustainability. Thank you.
Like, share and subscribe. Hit the bell icon for more updates.